All right. Trying to get this thing to cooperate. You just want to tell these guys you have one job. I think that will work. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for joining me. I am just hopping on to answer any questions that you have, but I do also have a little something I wanted to share. So you're welcome to leave questions, anyone who is popping into the chat. And I am going to make this Sunday weekly chat a thing if that sounds like something y'all are interested in. So if you're watching now with me, let me know. If you're watching this in the future, let me know if this is a good time for you going forward, or if you have a different, because we were used to do Wednesdays. But then Wednesdays are kind of rough. So we talked about it in one of my previous chats, and we talked about doing a Sunday. So let me know what you think about this Sunday, kind of between 5 and 6 p.m. sometime, getting started. So we talked about New Year's resolutions a lot in the previous chat. And it was a lot of considerations about what type of goals we should set, what goals are most realistic for us, and realistically, why we so often end up feeling like we've failed at keeping up with our goals. So if that is something that feels like how you're feeling right now, I want you to let go of that feeling that you have failed or you have not succeeded the way you wanted to, because that feeling in and of itself kind of disables us largely, or makes us less able, however you want to say it, makes us less able to actually continue making good decisions. So I think that built into our struggles with getting healthier, changing our diet, getting in shape, whatever it is, this kind of goal that we've set, by accepting that we can fail at that goal in the first place, or by accepting that we, can set some certain parameters for us to gauge how successful we are, that whole mindset kind of ends up taking away from the greater purpose, right? So the greater purpose is to make changes that we can stay consistent with, and to not just do something for a couple of weeks, but to actually find simple, realistic things that we can do and then start doing those things on a regular basis. And that doesn't mean you do it every single day, because that's not realistic with like our lives, right? But what it means is that if you do it for a couple days one week, and then maybe you have a really stressful week and you don't do those things, it's totally fine. That following week, guess what? Maybe 1 or 2 days of the week you are able to make time for that goal. So maybe it's a little 10-minute yoga practice is the goal that you set. Or maybe it's, making like one healthy choice at a meal throughout the day. So I don't mean eating healthy meals all day long. I mean, for one meal of the day, you're like, okay, what's something healthier I could do? Okay, rather than a steak with macaroni and cheese and mashed potatoes and a bunch of carbs. Maybe I'm going to still eat the steak, but maybe I'll have it with vegetables or have it with a salad. Like those entree salads, some of them are really good. All out of bubblegum. Happy New Year to you. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome, welcome. How is your New Year going? I was also having this thought, especially in the world of weight loss, which is a huge industry. And it's very kind of triggering, right? It's upsetting to think about. But I feel that the desire to improve our health, eat healthier, that's really where our emphasis should go. That's the whole purpose, right? And then anyone with a weight loss goal, if your overwhelming purpose isn't improving your health, If it's something aesthetic, right? Like, oh, we have all these kind of aesthetic things we feel about ourselves. Oh, if I could fit into this size, or if I could look this way or that way, right? Those aesthetic goals make it very, very hard to actually do the things we need to do to get healthier because we have all this self judgment that's like cloaked into the goal itself. So, somewhere within being part of this weight loss industry machine, which is like a very huge industry now with tons of different products being um, heavily marketed to people who have this goal to lose weight. A lot of times, those products I feel are capitalizing on our insecurities about ourselves. So, my perspective is that if our goals are rooted in insecurities and self judgments, then the first step in doing anything is addressing those insecurities and self judgments, asking why we're holding on to those feelings in the first place and where did they come from? Did they originate from something within you? Or is it something that you heard somewhere at some time? I know for myself, like, there's just these little insidious little things they've implanted in our minds, right? And a lot of that contributes to this general feeling of, you know, feeling disappointed with ourselves or unhappy with some aspect of ourselves. Facing my own insecurities and self judgments right now as I talk about it with you and avoid looking at myself in the camera because I'm insecure about my long face, my long forehead. But it's these judgments about ourselves that hang out rent free in our minds. When we come up against them and see them, acknowledge them, we can begin to notice how they have taken hold on us or how they take hold on how we just feel about ourselves going throughout our day. So this is why the topic of weight loss is so it's volatile, right? It can be very painful to think about. It can be painful to confront why we feel that we need to lose weight in the first place. So it's one thing if we have a visit with our doctor and the doctor advises that for improving our health or maybe taking some of a lot of times joint pain is because there's just so much weight. We're not able to bear that much weight. So on one hand, I would actually recommend like doing some strength training, strengthening those muscles and especially those joints that support us, like our knees and our ankles. You can do a lot to help bring some more strength into those areas. That would be the first thing I would mention. But a lot of times the first recommendation is that like, oh, you need to lose weight. Oh, well, guess what? Most of the things you need to do to lose weight that are prescribed to us in our society are actually very difficult on our knees and our ankles. So it has put a lot of us, into a kind of weird feedback loop. And then within this industry of weight loss, okay, they also want us to believe that the solution is very, very complex. It's difficult to understand, it's hard to implement, it's hard to maintain. Maybe if you had a system whereby you could ascribe points to different foods and then constantly have an additional series of mathematical equations to constantly be judging in your mind as well while you're like dealing with hunger, which is a very intense sensation in and of itself. So within this belief that the solution is complex, to maintain, oh, I always fall off the wagon. This, accepting this as fact also keeps us in the hamster wheel of feeling completely um, helpless, maybe. Or even if we're not helpless, we have these like surges of being really like on our diet, our workout plan, our yoga schedule, our whatever the goal is. We have series of being really on it, and then we kind of come into these schlumps, and it's very easy to like at that point be like, oh well, I failed. I'm throwing in the towel. So what I present to you as the remedy is to instead see the solution as something incredibly simple. Eating more actual foods with actual nutritional offerings, nutritional density, eating real foods, doing this on an ongoing basis so that it doesn't matter if you have a weekend or a week of eating pizza and ice cream and hamburgers. It doesn't matter. The next week, you have not done anything to, you know, stop the fact that you can still go on and make healthier decisions that following week. Let go of this feeling that I've fallen off the wagon or I've failed at the diet or my goal or my New Year's resolution. So here we are halfway through January. This is a good time to renew your New Year's resolution. And maybe if it needs to get molded and tweaked a little bit, this is a great time to do it. All right. Oh, I do see a comment here. It's tough losing weight when you have thyroid issues. All out of bubble gum. This is a very, very poignant point that you make. So, hormonal issues in general, I would say, are probably one of the number one reasons why we struggle so much to lose weight. So, whether it's your stress hormones and cortisol, your balance between estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone, whether it's the thyroid, which is often can be related to these other balances of these hormones, but also thyroid issues can be very isolated and kind of due to other things. But it's very complex to help bring the hormones into balance. But yeah, I would say that that is really the probably number one thing that needs to be addressed. Um, have you had a thyroid um, like surgery or something? Because I know a lot of people who've had their thyroid removed. That is often um, one of the common solutions that they end up offering. So that is something that um, I think you really are benefited to work with a doctor of functional medicine, someone who's going to be running such extensive tests um, in order to find out what's really going on and what can really be done to address the issue. So I think that there's, at least for me, kind of there's like a threshold, you could say, where when the issues become so severe, so significant that you really need those additional blood tests or nutritional deficiency tests, hormone tests, to actually help. kind of illuminate what the problem is. For a lot of us, there's things that we can do in our daily lives to help balance or balance our hormones and bring balance to the endocrine system. But there is definitely a certain point where people's conditions kind of hit that certain threshold where I really do think that you need that extra insight that can only be gained through um, testing done with typically a doctor of functional medicine. That is just the recommendation that will bring you to a doctor who is looking at the whole body and how all of the different parts interact. Um, and when they go in to do these tests and actually kind of get an idea of what's going on in your body and what the situation is and how it can be remedied, that perspective that you really only gained through those tests can be really valuable. Okay, no surgery, just pills so far. Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult and I know it's expensive. And that is one of the big factors a lot of times with these situations, right? Is that seeing the doctor can be expensive. A lot of times, a functional medicine practitioner, a lot of them don't take insurance. So then that's adds even more to it. The tests themselves can also get very expensive. So that is a consideration, a factor. Um, but there is definitely this kind of perspective among the conventional approach that a lot of these issues are just maintained through the use of these different medications. And when you ask them, like, "Oh, are you actually, like, fixing this problem? Is it gonna stop?" They're like, "No, you're gonna basically be on this medication for the rest of your life." And a lot of times the medications themselves end up having a lot of, other either side effects or just in general, many of the drugs are, they're hard on the kidneys, they're hard on the liver to detox from the body. Even Tylenol, right? They ended up revealing that Tylenol is actually responsible for so much liver damage. And it's something that a lot of us just, I know for me, I grew up thinking like Tylenol was like health syrup. Well, it's something to consider, and it's something you can ask your doctor. Like, is this a medication that I'm just on for a time being while we're remedying the situation? Or is this a drug I'm gonna be on for the rest of my life? If it's something that they say, "Yeah, you're basically gonna be on this for the rest of your life," which is a lot of the medications, and I'm not saying all those medications are bad, but it's just important to realize that, what that means for your body is that whatever other issues that problem was causing, they're probably not gonna be resolved because the medication is just trying to bring you up to a level where you can still get by with that condition kind of running in the background, much like a bunch of computer programs running in the background. So then when you come in and have a functional medicine practitioner, their whole goal is kind of like bringing out the magnifying glass to actually figure out what is going on in the body to cause that issue in the first place and outline some kind of series of remedies to resolve it. Um, yeah. And I feel unfortunate saying that. And um, I don't want to sound unappreciative for what a lot of these medications do. And a lot of them save people's lives, right? They're very, very important. It's just a difficult situation that we find ourselves in now where that industry of pharmaceuticals has become so powerful and has so many lobbyists. down fighting for things to happen for them, for laws to change that will help them. Not to mention their representatives who go to the doctors and give them a bunch of drug samples and then all kinds of other stuff. It's a very, it seems like a very big conflict of interest, the way that doctors are incentivized to prescribe more of these drugs. And then, unfortunately, within the medical system and the insurance system, the doctors are incentivized to see as many patients as possible. So, unfortunately, I mean, I don't even really blame the doctors necessarily. The doctors are genuinely trying to help people. They've been put in a position where they're not really given enough time with each patient to give the level of care that they'd like to give. And then a lot of doctors become disheartened by so many patients who don't do the things they've told them to do. And then they just kind of stop mentioning it at all. They're like, oh, well, we could tell you to get a bit more exercise and change your diet a little bit, but we know most people don't do that. So we're going to prescribe you this drug instead. Now, that's not across the board, but I think that that's happening more and more these days, and certainly is something that I've kind of observed. So, it's important for us as consumers or patients, right? So to the to the pharmaceutical industry, we are consumers. To the doctors, we are patients, but in a weird way, our system has also sort of turned us into consumers from their eyes as well. And I think there's a lot of changes that should be made to help actually provide better care. Changing this light color. What a strange. I was like, maybe the color light is just too weird, but yes, doctors just want to treat the symptoms, not cure. All out of bubblegum. Yeah, I mean, and I would love someone to like come prove me wrong. That would be great. I would love that. Um, but right now, it definitely seems that way. Is it all glitchy for you, or is that just on my end? Just seeing it's kind of looking wonky. And then I wonder, maybe this red light is not helping the situation. Basically, no difference whatsoever. It isn't glitching for me. Okay, good. That makes me feel better. I think sometimes it's difficult to tell within the little live studio situation how it's actually looking. Mel B, welcome to the chat. How are you doing? Water. Okay. Cold, but okay. Yeah. Yes, it's quite cold. It is quite cold now. Okay, so then I wanted to pull up on this video. Okay. So many sweet comments that, okay, I know I have one video up on this channel. I'm going to hopefully be putting up some more videos on this channel this year. And then Where is sorry, now I'm, like, looking over here for this comment that I found a comment earlier I wanted to answer to, and of course, now it's not where it was. Maybe it was on my Instantgram. Let me go back over there. Oh, Mel B, I just realized you don't have a wrench over here. Hold on a second. Well, Alrighty. Welcome to the Mod Squad. The Modern Squadron? I don't know. That's weird. Brianna, holy moly, it is cold out. I was even thinking to myself, like, it'll be really interesting to see how many people comment about how cold it is, because it's even cold in Texas right now. So then it's cold in all the places that would already normally be cold. But thankfully in Texas, they have not turned off our power yet. So hoping that does not happen this year. Okay. So I'm going to Okay, here we go. Um Goodness gracious. Okay. So, healthy and unhealthy Starbucks drinks. A whole video on the ingredient list of chicken nuggets. I would have been trying to think of how to I don't know how to make some kind of like grand summary of um like the idea of going through all the ingredients of the chicken nuggets is like mind-boggling. I mean, it's a lot of ingredients. And then going and looking up each one and doing a bunch of research, like I am so disgusted with what I learned about fast food ingredients 10 years ago. 10 years ago, what I was learning about the food ingredients. And I remember a time in my becoming interested in health and nutrition and everything. I remember a time when I was like, man, someone needs to let these people know how dangerous these things are. It's so horrible. They don't realize what they're doing. It's so horrible. They don't realize that a bunch of these different food chemicals are carcinogenic. That means they're known to cause cancer. It's so sad they don't realize that MSG actually makes people overeat and is part of what tricks the brain into not understanding when it needs to stop eating. Man, someone needs to let them know. So sad they don't know. Man, it's so sad they don't realize that the artificial colors are associated with hyperactivity and learning issues. And it just went on and on and on, and the fillers and the silicon dioxide and the, carrageenan and just all of the chemicals that are made from corn, but it's not corn. It does not have the juice. Okay. Oh, Jules, what the F is soy lecithin? And why is it in everything? I think I'm allergic to soy, so it's dreadful AF. The number of people who I like have watched them discover that they're allergic to soy. Honestly, it's mind-boggling. So yeah, soy lecithin. Why is it in everything? Anyways, so the point I was trying to make here is like, I remember when I had this thought, oh, someone should let these companies know how dangerous these chemicals are because clearly they don't know, or else they wouldn't be using them and putting them in our food. And then at a certain point, I was like, wait, if they can invent the thing, how could they not know? If I know how horrible these things are, and I'm not even like a chemist, I'm not in the food engineering, food production industry, then surely the people who are in that industry, like, it's not that they don't know. Now, I will not sit here and say that they're doing it on purpose because they have ill will toward us. But I am comfortable saying that at this point, it's not that they don't know. So, one of the main reasons that they use these chemicals in so many things is that, okay, when you're the manufacturer of soy lecithin, now there's probably several manufacturers of soy lecithin, or at least a couple, but once they're producing it and they're producing it in huge volumes, they make more money the more products that chemical goes into. I don't even know the level to which the people producing the foods and the people producing the chemicals, what is the relationship whereby all of these huge food producers are benefited by buying these certain chemicals? I mean, it seems a little like it's probably a little incestuous, right? It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to be made. I hope that the monetary incentive is their only purpose. I hope that's it. But I would also argue that, like, if you are doing something for monetary gain and that thing ends up being shown to be harmful to people, then, like, whether or not you actually intended to harm them in the first place, if you're still doing that thing, still using the food chemical, polydimethylsiloxane. Remember the yoga mat chemical that ended up being used in like tons and tons of breads? And so they outed like Subway for it, and I think Schlotsky's. But then I saw that polydimethylsiloxane on tons and tons and tons of ingredient lists. It's just one example of one of these crazy chemicals that they end up realizing, like, oh, that's really bad. These forever chemicals, which we're hearing a lot about now, I mean, those have been used in our products for a really long time. And now we're just finding out that they're just finding out how dangerous they are. And then when I find that information out, I'm like, wow, I'm so thankful that like I had this weird intuition to try to avoid those things 15 years ago. Cuz now 15 years later they're actually revealing all of the findings that um But our exposure to those chemicals is already, like, so huge. Mel B. You're so cute, babe. I was still kind of considering going back into the general population still on the other channel too. I think it's maybe just easier for me to chat as simply me and not as a formal mod. Do you want me to demod you here? I hate for you to feel that there's any kind of like pressure on you or that you should not feel like you can just simply chat and have a good time and also set down the phone or walk away from the computer, like do your life also. Like you don't have to, but if you have this weird sense that you feel like it's this little extra added pressure, then like I don't want that on you. I'm happy to bring you back into Gen Pop. um, I feel like general population of the YouTube chats is like pretty cool. Where can I find a list of dangerous chemicals? Jules, literally just go Google dangerous food chemicals and just look at the sheer volume of different websites, blogs, and places who have like made lists of different chemicals. Um, you can also look up like food chemicals banned in other countries. I have seen so many people, and you can, even if you just prefer to do it as a video, search it on YouTube. I've seen so many people talking about the food chemicals that are banned in other countries, but then they're still used in the foods here. So, like when you look at the ingredients of a Sprite and a Sprite, or a candy bar and a candy bar in America versus another country, they'll have different ingredients. Um, ah, always got to have a chapstick nearby. But yeah, and Jules, if you suspect that you have a soy allergy, I would say that's a really good indication that you have a soy allergy. And yeah, it is one of the most, excuse me, one of the most difficult things to avoid because you're going to see soy ingredients in almost everything. It's very disheartening. The only possible worse allergy I think would be like corn. Like I think corn is maybe the only other food uh from which chemicals are made that is actually more common than soy. Um and it's unfortunate because the soybean that edamame, when you go to the sushi restaurant, you eat edamame, there are health benefits in eating the soybean, and it's not an unhealthy food as a vegetable, as a plant, consumed as a plant in its whole self. But once they start processing the stuff out of it and isolating the things, right? So they use soy protein isolate, right? And all the different protein things, protein powders, protein bars, candy bars with protein in them. You name it, right? They almost all have soy protein isolate. Well, now they're isolating all the soy out. What are they going to do with the wet rest of it? So I believe the lecithin is derived from the starchy part of the soy, the carbohydrate part, which is why they add it to everything because it's just, you know, makes the illusion of the food being more food, kind of like guar gum, right? Guar gum, carrageenan. Anything that has some kind of a sauce is almost always going to have those things. They're literally called fillers. I know I don't know, I'm like, actually, you know what? I wonder. What a crazy world. When we are kind of considering like what is a real food, what is not a real food. I used to like make kind of like jokes about it, and I had that one video called The Easiest Diet Ever, and the whole thing was just like it was a little cheeky talking about like how to compare like processed versus unprocessed foods, but like I had no idea at that time that it would um continue to be such actually a genuine real issue and real question. When they say that 80% of the grocery store is processed foods, or what I would call frankenfoods, as in they're more non-food than real food, right? Real food ingredients, when you see them on the ingredient list, it just looks like a food. And my favorite little silly thing is to be like, okay, if I put this ingredient into, Google Images, would it bring up an image of a food, right? So corn, tomato, potato, celery, onion, brown rice. These are foods that would generate a picture, right? Soy protein isolate, polydimethyl siloxane, soy lecithin, right? All of these things, maybe there'd be a picture of a soybean next to the soy lecithin, but realistically, soy lecithin is a chemical compound, a chemical structure. And when you start isolating out the different components of the actual natural food, you start to disrupt your body's ability to digest it. You start to disrupt the amount of nutrients that are present. That's why at the very beginning of the chat, I was trying to say, like, eat nutrient dense foods that are just real foods. And when I say that haven't been processed, I don't mean like milling grain into flour, okay, or cooking something, which technically those are processings. But what I'm talking about is when you take the food in its natural state, put it through machinery to isolate out different parts of the food to then go be used as different things. That is the level of processing that it, to me, is like red flag, red flag, red flag. That's what I'm trying to avoid. So when you see the crazy ingredients on the ingredient list, like, I will say, because I went through all the time going and looking them up and reading about them and reading about how dangerous they are, like, that's why I now can say, "Oh, I just try to avoid all of them." But I understand that, like, in your journey, going and reading the things and seeing the things, like, it is very valuable, and it's why I want to do a video on the ingredients of the chicken nugget and talk about it. And I was trying to come up with a, like, visual way that I could convey, like, how much of the chicken nugget is actually food, like a pie chart situation, you know? And I'll see if, I'll actually, like, come up with an estimate of, like, how much of the chicken nugget is actually chicken, how much, what percentage of the chicken nugget is non-food, frankenfood, fillers, other whatever you wanna call it. Like Big Pharma and FDA gives a crap. Some things have been on purpose, I'll say it, I'm convinced of it. I appreciate you for saying it, Mel B. I didn't wanna say it, although I feel like I've basically said it, right, over the years. Some things have been on purpose. Um, P10X. Pizza. What do you mean like pizza? You mean as a processed food? Because I would say that there is 100% a way to eat pizza, and pizza is a totally real, natural, whole food, nutritious food. So, pizza dough, it's just like flour, water, what pizza dough ingredients? I know it's like it's ridiculously easy. Pizza dough recipe. Pizza dough recipe. It's not you, it's Bing. Dun, 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 dun. Water, sugar, 2 teaspoons, 1 package active dry yeast, and a couple cups of flour, some sea salt. Ooh, dried basil, oregano, marjoram, optional, but that'd be some good flavor, and a third cup of olive oil or some kind of vegetable oil. Those are all real foods. All of those classify as real foods. And honestly, what's better than like a freshly made, like yummy pizza crust? So when I go to the grocery store, there's this certain like part of the grocery store where they'll have little dough balls, a little ball of pizza dough that you could just like buy. It's like $2 or $3. I don't know. You just like buy the pizza dough. And when I'm feeling fancy, I will buy that pizza dough and roll it out. I've made a pizza on it, but also sometimes I like to make stromboli. What? What? You roll out the pizza dough and then you put the toppings inside? It's kind of like a calzone, but a different shape. It's a little bit more like a burrito shape. But like, I consider that a whole real food, right? Because all of the ingredients in the dough. Now, granted, my store-bought dough from the grocery store, it probably does have some fillers in it. But I read through the ingredients and I'm like, okay, this is mostly just like wheat flour, whatever things. It's not too crazy. I consider that, though, real food. And then certainly if you actually made pizza dough from scratch from these ingredients. Now, I've never done that. So I don't want to tell you to like, just go make your own pizza dough. No big deal. Like, I haven't done that either. But I'll buy the dough ball from the store. And then like, so pizza sauce, tomatoes, guess what, guys? It's a vegetable. Tomatoes, maybe some fresh herbs, and then cheese is one of the most satisfying things for us to eat because of all that yummy fat. There's like the tangy flavor and everything. There's a reason why pizza is one of the most popular foods. It's a very a very satisfying thing to eat. If you're making your own pizza and you want to throw a bunch of veggies on top of your pizza, mushrooms, onions, pineapple. You don't have to add pineapple, but if you wanted to add pineapple, right? Like put a bunch of yummy veggies on top of your pizza. Now you have something that I would consider like this is a yummy, healthy meal. So unfortunately, a lot of the like fast food pizza type places, right? They're using all those weird, crazy processed ingredients in the crust. A lot of the frozen pizzas are a lot of weird, crazy processed ingredients. So, yes, there are pizzas that I would qualify as these frankenfoods, highly processed foods. But I also want to be very clear that to give up highly processed frankenfoods does not mean giving up pizza. RD, if one is making the choice to go with fast food, are there any places menus that are actually good with health conscious options? RD. Man, we used to have this little place in Austin called Baby Greens. And it was like a little, drive-through situation, but she made these amazing, like, it was like a salad wrap. But you could get it with chicken or different other stuff in it. I would love to see something like that become, you know, as common as McDonald's, right? I probably could do a new round of going through like the menus at a lot of places and seeing if I can find some options. Um, by and large, man, maybe throw if you want to throw out some. I actually like can't even really think of things because like Subway was in trouble for using the polydimethylsiloxane bread. Like And then their vegetables, like, don't really feel super fresh. I know it's not really fast food, but it can be fast, like Jason's Deli, and the salad bar at Jason's Deli is, like, pretty insane, and then they've got a bunch of soups, and then a lot of, like, sandwich options too. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I don't know if that really qualifies as fast food. I will say I think there's a really big, step up that you take just to pick a restaurant and, like, call in your order at the restaurant and go pick it up. And then it's not as fast as, like, you're driving, you see it, you turn in, and you're in line. But time-wise, right? And especially once you get in the habit of like, "Oh, I'm gonna call in an order somewhere." And then going in and picking that thing up, some of those places even have curbside and they'll bring it out to you, is, like, almost as fast food. You're gonna have a big uptick of quality and nutritional, density, right? How much nutrients are in the food. Just going to a restaurant rather than a fast food place, even if you're still getting a pizza or a sandwich or a burger, right? And a lot of times, if you get a burger from a restaurant, you could even get like a side of, steamed vegetables or whatever their like vegetable of the day is instead of fries, or get a salad. If you don't if doing salad instead of fries makes your heart feel incredibly painful and like you wanna gouge out your it's okay, I get it. I'm there, and a lot of times I'm there, and then I'm like, "You know what? I'll get a salad with the fries." But just adding servings of vegetables, that's like a great goal to try to do. So whether it's adding a side of steamed veggies or adding a side salad to something, if you go out to eat, especially if you're with another person or 2 other people or something, um, order the entree or, pick one of the entree salads and order that as an appetizer. Because when you get to the restaurant, you're starving. So whatever they bring you, you're gonna be like, so just order a salad as your appetizer. But the little side salads, little garden salads, they're usually pretty boring. But if you get an entree salad, and then if you're like, "Oh, we're gonna share an entree salad as our appetizer," they'll usually even, like, bring it to you in 2 bowls or 3 bowls or whatever. Or if you're by yourself, get the entree salad, eat as much as you can, box up the rest, and it'll be great to finish later. The cool thing about salad is when you're really hungry, salad's, like, super good. Um, but the entree salads, like, are the way to go. Okay, nice. So I don't have to feel as bad as eating this whole large pizza to myself then. I mean, honestly, P10X, if you made that pizza yourself, or even if you just like, bought the pizza with as many like the ingredients just are real foods, then yeah, don't feel bad. Eat, the other thing about eating real foods, not only they give your body more nutrients, obviously this is very important. More nutrients equals our body being healthier. But those real foods have all this fiber and then some perfect ratio of fats, protein, and carbohydrates, macronutrients that really help with satiation, which is that feeling where you feel good and you stop thinking about food. It's an amazing thing. And people who have done lots of diets understand what it's like when you never feel satiated and how horrible that is, and how hard it is, and how difficult it makes it to stay on a diet. You should never feel like you have to be hungry all the time in order to be healthy or even in order to lose weight. Eating real foods that actually satiate and satisfy your hunger is the key. Is the key. Because when you eat the real foods, they help your brain and your stomach understand how much food you've eaten and understand when you should stop eating. This whole issue of us being unable to control how much we eat largely stems from the fact that we are eating these highly processed frankenfoods that no longer have the fiber and a lot of times no longer have the fat. But the fiber and the fat, that's part of what fills us up and satisfies us. So one of the greatest things that the sugar industry ever did to make people, unable to control how much they're eating and to overeat carbohydrates was to demonize fats and get everybody to remove the fats out of their diet and eat fat-free foods. Okay, I'm gonna try to catch up with these comments. All right. Doo, doo, doo. I think my give a damn busted a while ago. You're so cute, Melby. Yeah, making your homemade food, all about it. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and peas, my go-to takeout comfort food from a local place. That sounds so good. That sounds so good. Yes, peas mixed with the mashed potatoes. I want every bite to have a little bit of each thing. Like little meatloaf, little mashed potatoes, little bit of peas, every bite. Um Melby's like, no. Honestly, Melby, you know what you did? You just gave us a nay. You were like, nay. Like to eat the things separately. And that is also, that is totally a thing. And I respect people who want to enjoy the things separately. That is not me, but I have respect for people who want to, not combine all of the foods into one big, oh, we're at 5 and 5. That's exciting. No. It's so fun. It's so fun. Once you start naying people in real life, you will unlock a whole other level of how satisfying it is to neigh at people. Okay, well, I just learned the ingredients for pizza dough while we were here. So if anything was accomplished in this chat, guys, okay. And I watch a lot of videos of people making their own noodles. You guys watch that? Like a big pile of flour, and then you make a little divot, a little hole, a little nest in the flour. Put a bunch of eggs in there. But the whole point is it's a real food. Flour and eggs. It is important to understand what enriched flour is, though. And when you're looking at the ingredient labels, one of the things you do want to look for is that the thing just says wheat flour or maybe 100% whole wheat flour. But a lot of times it'll just say wheat flour, right? But that's what you're looking for as opposed to enriched wheat flour. And a lot of times it'll say enriched, unbleached. And you're like, oh, great, it's unbleached. Well, what that tells you is a bunch of the other flour is bleached. So enriched, unbleached is better than enriched, okay? Which would be bleached, right? Because if it doesn't say unbleached, then it's been bleached. But what you're looking for ideally is whole wheat flour or even other types of grains in the flour. So especially if you have a gluten-free flour that you're looking at or gluten-free bread, you're going to see your tapioca flour, coconut flour, maybe there's other types of grains in there as well. But when you see that word enriched, what that is telling you is that the enriched flour, the white flour, they remove the fiber. That's what kind of the brown part is. And when you're looking at the whole wheat flour and it's brown, like the fiber is kind of what you're seeing there. So to make this white flour, they remove the fiber. And when they remove the fiber, the flour becomes so depleted in nutrients, they actually have to add a couple of nutrients back into the flour just so that it can be digested, just so that it can be consumed. So that's what enriched flour is. They've removed the fiber and a lot of the other nutritional components from the grain, from the flour that they are, or whatever process they're using, right? And then they've added some of those nutrients back in because people were like becoming very sick, right? So when you see that word enriched, unfortunately, that is a big red flag. And what you'll start seeing is that it's in everything. It's actually very difficult to avoid it. But once you become aware of it, it becomes much easier to avoid it, right? And there is a certain like turnover time of, getting to where you can phase those things out of your diet and you find healthier options, right? So there's this like Dave's organic bread that I like, and he never uses any enriched flour. It's always a whole grain flour. But that as a substitution for like all the other breads, because the Sara Lee, the Pepperidge Farm, even the Health Nut, okay, that bread that's called Health Nut, enriched flour. And caramel coloring a lot of times. You'll see like enriched flour and caramel coloring. Like they're just trying to trick you and make you think the bread is healthier. What that feels like a Black Mirror episode. Um be gonna do that in a different chat when this one chick annoys me. Gonna give her a nay. Nice. Ooh, P10X. I want to try to make my own ramen noodles. It looks hard from watching people, though. Man, I don't even know if I've seen people make their own ramen noodles, but I love ramen noodles. Okay. That sounds so good. Jules, what are your go-to snacks? Hold on one second. Let me show you. I'll never give up hot Cheetos. Man, you know what? There are so many good spicy chips things now. And that are actual real foods. Actual real foods. Cheetos, unfortunately, fall in that category of the vanishing caloric density. This is a food technique, a food engineering technique that the food scientists use when they're designing the foods to trick your body into not realizing how much you've eaten. Um, I believe it's called Why Americans Love Junk Food is this book, uh, where this guy who used to work in the food industry talks about it. So vanishing, as in you eat the food, it's very crunchy, it's very satisfying, but then it vanishes very quickly. Vanishing caloric density, as in your body can't tell how many calories you've consumed. The food literally tricks your brain into not realizing how much you've eaten so that you can literally sit there and eat an utterly huge volume of food, way more than you. Okay. So this is not spicy. This is not going to count as a spicy thing, but crunchy, cheesy thing. Holy camole. Okay. So the brand is Moon Cheese. And literally the ingredients are Gouda cheese. Okay. And then within the Gouda cheese as the ingredient, pasteurized milk, salt, cheese, cultures, enzymes. It's just little crunchy puffs of cheese. Okay, I've never had the Gouda ones, but I have got these before. They have them like Parmesan, cheddar. Okay, looks like a cheesy poof. Let's give it the crunch test. I know this is not mukbang, guys, but just for the sake of argument, okay? Oh, yeah. They're so good. I'm going to stop eating in your ear, but they're so good. But it's a great example of something. It's just food. It's just real food. And because it's just cheese and there's a lot of protein and rich flavor and fat, it's very satisfying. So you probably could eat this whole bag. This is not a very big bag. 2 servings per container. So they think, but this would be a good example of like a snack I would consider that would actually curb your hunger a little bit. Right? 11 grams of protein, 25% of your daily calcium that you need. So there's one example, okay? And then I'm a big fan of having some kind of like nuts present in a snack. So here's my little, like, it's like a trail mix situation. I love having this by itself, but my favorite thing to do with this is adding it to a salad. Because all of the like yummy, crunchy, tasty things or whatever, like what make the salad really good. So I buy a lot of this stuff. I either eat it like as a snack because easiness, or throw this in when I'm like making a salad, and it's more fun than just like lettuce and dressing. To have a little, this is what makes it start feeling like an entree salad from a restaurant, right? And then I don't know if you ever see these guys, this skinny dipped brand. This one is lemon bliss flavor, which is insane. Okay. But they also have just like milk chocolate, dark chocolate. I think they have like a caramel, maybe like salted caramel one. There's a couple of different flavors, but I like this one not only because no artificial colors or flavors, okay? No weird, yellow 5, red 40, all those weird colors with little numbers after them. I really try to avoid those. And then almonds are the first ingredient. So the whole idea with this brand is that the things are dipped skinny, right? So there's a little less of the sweet coating. Whereas, like, this is maybe what and obviously this one's really good. And I get things that are like that too. But I like this skinny dipped brand. And then they're also got non-GMO on the front too. So 10 out of 10 crunch. I mean, occasionally won't be bad, right? Yeah, no, occasionally you're probably fine. Um, I just have to mention it because I think it's, if it's something that people are eating every day, then I think that can be damaging. And if people are like really feeling like they're struggling with their weight, then that would be the type of snack I would really encourage you to avoid or try replacing with something that is a little more food like. Because that enriched flour, which is like, in the Cheetos and all of your other, those little easy, quick snack things, right? Most of them are made with the enriched flour, pretzels. I still don't think I have found a pretzel that's not made with enriched flour. But between that and then the vanishing caloric density, Cheetos become that would be like a pretty rough food um, for somebody that's struggling with their weight. So I just want to throw it out there. I feel bad like hating on people's worst foods or favorite foods. But then I'm also like, because of what I know about these foods, the food chemicals, the different things that have now been found associated with them, I'm able to avoid those foods really easily. I don't think about them. I don't miss them. It's been a journey for me, I guess getting to that point, but starting to see these companies for what they really are and being like, "Ah, man, these companies like really don't care if they make us like super sick and then really unhappy because we become overweight and we're in pain and discomfort and then we're like super judgmental because the culture makes us super judgmental of ourselves." Like that's kind of evil. Michelle, good to see you. How are you doing? I actually sort of like the ASMR crunch. Yeah, P10X. I'm going to be doing an ASMR chat in about an hour or so. Um and you know what? We could do some mukbang if y'all want. Those freaking things are super good. Um if you could find a healthier puff brand that tastes similar to hot Cheetos, I could easily give it up. Do you have a Trader Joe's near you? 'Cause Trader Joe's has a couple of different like spicy chip situations. I'm not sure. Um, I know I've seen some different like cheesy puff type of brands. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I will try to get back to you on that. Um, oh, oh, thank you. That is so sweet of you. The serving size, were you asking on this? It says 2 servings per container. Serving size is a third cup. So I don't know what that but that could be a fun video. I could actually oh, and you know what? Actually, it's a really good idea. I'll just take popular foods, hot Cheetos, etc., whatever, and then find a couple of like healthier replacements. And then I can like compare them to each other. And I really like doing things to help like visually show the difference between like how many carbohydrates are in this. I've done that with like packs of sugar, right? And then the last thing I brought when we're talking about healthy snacks. Now, obviously, that's not the crazy healthiest snack, but sometimes, like, you got a craving for some chocolate, right? Um, and who doesn't love like Reese's peanut butter cups? Like, obviously, that's a crowd favorite. So here is my uh favorite Reese's peanut butter cup dupe. Now, I got all dark chocolate ones. They do make a milk chocolate one as well. They have like a milk chocolate peanut butter that's very similar to a Reese's. I like the dark chocolate. I like that little extra bitterness, that little extra craziness. But if you're a milk chocolate person, like make sure you get milk chocolate because that extra bitterness of the dark chocolate can be a little off-putting for people. And sometimes people don't realize like how different it's going to be. Um but I love this. So this is this brand Justin's and they have a freaking cashew butter one. And then dark chocolate and almond. And then they have this crazy one that has little like crispies in it, little like crispy quinoa crunchiness in it. And like these are insane. So this I would say is less in like snack territory and a little more in like dessert territory. Um, but just knowing that, and especially in this day and age, there are a lot of different brands that are trying to make healthier snack options, right? So these like moon cheese, I see a lot of these different kind of like puffed cheese uh types of products. Um I think there's one that's like Parm crisps and it's like little Parmesan. I mean, but they are so good. They're insane. And then I'm sure that somebody somewhere is making some of these that are also spicy, and maybe we can get like a hot spicy Cheetos type of situation going on. You can also, if you are the type of person, be eating something like this and take a bite of a jalapeno pepper. I know a lot of people that are just like hand me the fresh pepper. So a lot of times when you're eating the like spicy whatever, spicy food, who freaking knows like what all different chemicals and flavors get added to it. But when you are eating a pepper, whether it's just like a sweet pepper or a hot pepper, there's a lot of health benefits in the pepper. So if you're into spicy foods, you should be buying a couple of like fresh jalapenos at the store. Fresh jalapenos, not only like they taste so good, but I mean, some of them get very hot. Some of them get very hot. But people who are into spicy food, like, they like that. If a jalapeno is not hot enough for you, maybe you need to go into Serrano land. You're feeling really crazy, maybe you're gonna get a habanero. Now that's insane. But if you get a habanero and then chop the habanero up and cook it in with your chicken or whatever you're making, you take a lot of the edge off by cooking it. But I will also say that, like, we're in the day and age now, right? Where everybody's just like, "I'm just gonna take a bite of this hot pepper." You don't have to go to, Chili Klaus, hot pepper land, okay? But know that hot peppers have health benefits. Capsaicin, which is the spicy chemical inside the pepper, has health benefits for you. So if you like spicy food, eat more peppers, like fresh peppers from the produce department. Let's see. Speaking of crunch too, you can get a lot of good crunch from eating a pepper. If you could okay, so a healthier puff brand, I love that idea. Yes, okay. Almost like the New Year's in and out trends people did. Yeah, that's a good idea. RD, healthy substitutes. And then, a lot of these different brands, sometimes they're adding food chemicals into the food, just like knowing that that's an addictive food chemical. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we want to make our food more addictive for people." And I mean, like that feels deceitful. Okay. Like if you're a chef, okay, like imagine in restaurants, imagine all of these restaurants that I mean, I don't think they're like in competition necessarily, right? But you've got like, oh, the Michelin stars. How many Michelin stars does this restaurant have? Like, oh, this world acclaimed chef. Oh, people come from all over the world to take the chef's food. If one of these chefs was revealed to have been putting some addictive chemicals in the food, like, wouldn't everybody be super pissed? It'd be like, "Hey, wait a second. I thought you were just, like, a really good chef." They're like, "Pfft." It feels a little deceptive. It feels a little deceitful. It feels a little bit like cheating from the perspective of, like, people who might compete to, like, who could come up with something that tastes the best, right? Like, "Oh, you cheated by putting some addictive chemicals in the food." It just really it rubs me the wrong way. And I'm imagining like Gordon Ramsay, if he was doing his show and then or who is it that people come on and compete with him? Somebody came on the show and they were putting addictive chemicals in their food to try and sway the judges. I mean, like it would be a whole thing. Um and yet here in this country we're all eating these processed foods, so many of which literally have chemicals added to them simply for the purpose of being addictive. And then we're all like, man, can't figure out why I can't stop eating. God, this is so confusing. Why do I have so much trouble controlling how much I eat? I'm like vanishing caloric density, addictive food chemicals, MSG. Like, why are you wondering? Why have we all allowed ourselves to be tricked into thinking that like it's confusing why we have such a difficult time with dieting. Well, it's because we're trying to eat these foods that are literally designed to trick your body into not realizing how much you've eaten. I mean, that feels deceptive. I don't want to accuse of anybody of anything, but it certainly was finding out that type of information that helped me realize, hey, wait a second, something isn't right here. Minimally, I, as a consumer, want to do what I can to try and avoid these foods, avoid supporting these companies, try to send a signal that, like, hey, consumers, we care about our health now. And I think it's in a way unfortunate that a lot of these food companies have then seen us as health conscious consumers as just like a new market for them to try to advertise to. But then they haven't actually tried to step up the healthful value of their products. Maybe some of them have in some ways, or maybe they've done like one thing, or they've switched out one ingredient. But then I go and read the ingredient label and they're still using a bunch of other things that I know to be harmful. So I'm like, well, did you make this change because you actually care about our health, like human to human? You care about us? Or did you make this change so that you could now trick conscious consumers into buying your unhealthy product? Yowlzer. So within all of this, it's kind of an uphill battle that we're in from the perspective that the grocery stores are filled with these highly processed foods. The fast food restaurants are all sourcing their ingredients from like Cisco or whatever these, big companies are. So essentially they're all feeding us the same things too. And largely it's these highly processed flours, things that are very cheap. They're using lots of preservatives and fillers and, arguably unnecessary chemicals which are added just to try to make the food more appealing, more appetizing, or to have more of an addictive effect on consumers. So, what that means for us as consumers is we just need to become more empowered to get in the kitchen more often. If we're in the kitchen making our own foods, we can still eat pizza, burgers, strombolis, calzones, if you prefer the shape of a calzone. It's not that you have to only eat chicken and vegetables and brown rice, and that's the only thing you can eat every day for the rest of your life. We just have this one simple concept that we're going to use the most natural version of the food, the least processed version of the food, in order to create, the things that we want to eat, the things that we want to make. Um, Aside from getting in the kitchen and actually making food ourselves, our choices are a bit difficult when we're looking at restaurants or we're looking at fast food places or we're looking at a lot of the just foods that are readily available and easily accessed. Um, a lot of those foods are all kind of made with these highly processed ingredients, which I believe are contributing to our health issues and contributing to the struggle that we have when we try to get healthy or we try to change our way of eating. Um, but looking for options where you can simply add in a more natural food. So, if you're ordering from a restaurant or even placing an order to go pick up from a restaurant, so treating the restaurant like a fast food joint, you call in your order, it's ready for you, you walk in, you pick it up, and you leave. When you're ordering from a restaurant, you usually are going to have more real food options. And so, yeah, even mashed potatoes totally counts as a real food option. And I would always prefer that you go with the mashed potatoes or the baked potato over the french fries. That one simple change where you're not deep frying the potato, you actually retain a lot of the actual nutrients within the potato. It's one of the reasons why they're such a comfort food because they're so satisfying to eat. So I don't want to tell people, "Hey, you can't eat potatoes." I just want to say if you're going to eat potatoes, just have a mashed potatoes or a baked potato. If you can avoid that frying process, you actually can still feel really good about eating potatoes. Don't feel like potatoes are an unhealthy food. That is a very it's just kind of short-sighted, or it's not a full picture, right? To say that potatoes are unhealthy or all carbohydrates need to be avoided. Let's just pick our carbohydrates with a little bit more um preference for the carbohydrates that haven't been highly processed or haven't been deep fried. Um, Side salads or sharing an entree salad as an appetizer, I will frickin' always continue mentioning that because that was a big thing for me. And really, I feel changed a lot for me to just be like, okay, at least I'm eating a salad. Like every time I go out, no matter what I end up ordering, I started with a salad. And a lot of times when you start with the salad and you curb a lot of that, like really strong hunger at the beginning of the meal with something that's a real food. And a lot of times, sometimes there's an appetizer that also counts as a real food, but you gotta be careful. Um, there's a lot of very unhealthy appetizers and things that are just so needlessly like deep fried and, uh, but switching away from those deep fried things to just favor something that's a little cooked a little more healthy, that's a big step. Um, when you're looking at different fast food restaurants, I know that was one of the questions up here. How to choose? Okay, so are there any places or menus that are actually good or health conscious? Um, so we talked about Jason's Deli a little bit. I feel a lot of restaurants now that are including the nutritional information either on their menu, or if it's not printed on the menu, you can actually go onto their website and you can find a lot of the nutritional information associated with the different foods. Sometimes that can feel really overwhelming to look at, but sometimes I find that like glancing at that information can be very informative, right? So you'll notice like, oh wow, this sandwich is like 1100 calories and this other sandwich is like 1800. Or if you are paying attention to something specific, I think looking at the carbohydrates is very beneficial, and looking for things that are high in protein is really beneficial. And sometimes that can be a little bit difficult to determine, but if you kind of can think about this ratio between carbohydrates and protein, If the protein is really low and the carbohydrates are really, really high, that is probably a meal that's not going to satisfy you. So sometimes you can just scroll through those little nutritional things and just like look for the thing that has the most protein. Now, you kind of also want to, if you do that, you want to also kind of look at the calories because sometimes you're like, oh, that has twice the protein, but also twice the calories of everything else. Um, I don't know. Find the happy balance between looking at the nutritional information. Know that sometimes it can just be overwhelming and not actually give you any beneficial information. But also when that information is offered, I do think it can be beneficial to kind of glance at it. And sometimes it can give you a lot of context for like what to choose off of that menu. I am gonna put together a video with some like specific places for y'all because I it's just been a while since I've like gone through and like looked at like what the menus even look like for a lot of these restaurants. But I know that there are a lot more places now, and I think there is a greater selection too when you go there. Um, so whether you are um it's kind of a strange thing, but I kind of visualize in my mind like kind of a game board uh visualization of like where we are on our health journey, right? Like if you're someone who cooking at home is this is like crazy thought, crazy idea for you. You're like in a certain place, kind of at the beginning of that journey. Like if you're in a place where you no longer eat fast food, um, you're like cooking 1 or 2 nights a week, like, okay, you're here. And then you have some people who are like, they're like, I never go to restaurants, I never eat fast food, I cook all my food at home, but I don't know what to do. Or I don't know how to get healthier from here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like everyone's in a different place on the journey. And I have struggled with feeling like, how do I make something that can benefit like everyone, no matter where they are on the journey, where no matter where they are on the game board. That's maybe a little bit difficult. Uh, okay, Cheesecake Factory, Jules. Let's see. Explore cheesecakes. I mean, yes, I wanted to explore the cheesecakes, but we're trying to look at the menu. Okay, Cheesecake Factory, browse menu. Skinnylicious avocado tacos. Crispy crab bites, crab wontons. Oh my gosh, this is all this is I will say this is making me hungry. Small plates and snacks. Oh, Cheesecake Factory most popular. That would be. Doop, doop, doo, doop, doop, doo. Oh my lord. We tried a whole ton of dishes from the Cheesecake Factory. Here's what to order and what to skip. Good foot, but forgettable pepperoni flatbread. Okay, this is not that is one thing though. Yeah, you're like anything you want to go. I'm gonna have to do a little research on this because all I'm finding is like people are ranking them based on like taste or whatever, how good they are. But I should actually like spend a little bit of time with this and figure out like, okay, what are these actually? Can we give any kind of like health score to some of these items? Maybe that would be a good thing. I can kind of have a series where going through different restaurants, kind of giving different items. It's very rough though, and it's hard to like set a parameter exactly for like, okay, what makes something healthy? What makes this dish more healthy than that dish? Obviously, there's certain things you can look at. Um, how much nutritional value is offered, what is like your carb to protein ratio type of situation. And then a lot of times it's like the sauce and the toppings and the gravies, and that is like where a lot of your like extra calories come from. A lot of sugar usually in those different like toppings and sauces. So one simple thing you can do is like ordering the sauce on the side of whatever you're ordering. I feel like that's kind of a stupid tip that's probably been mentioned a lot, but if it helps anyone, it's worth mentioning. Okay. Anyways, um, getting the sauce on the side, the gravy on the side, whatever on the side, because usually they have really smothered the thing in that stuff. And that is like where a lot of your added calories come from. Um, Favoring things that are grilled or baked rather than fried. Sometimes you can even order something and say, "Oh, can I get it grilled instead of fried?" And depending on what it is, right? Or they might even like as part of the menu option, they're like grilled or fried, grilled or fried. Always opt for grilled. I know that the fried, right? Like, yay, we love fried food. It's very satisfying. It's because there's so much fat in the food. But you're doing yourself a big favor if you can avoid the fried thing in favor of something grilled or even just baked, right? So when I bake chicken, I like to put a little bit of like panko topping on top. So get this nice, like crispy situation, kind of like the delightfulness of something that's fried, but at least it's baked. So it's not coming up to that high temperature. Um, Things that are like almond crusted or whatever, or they've like added in some crunchiness without deep frying the thing. And I will just be honest, it's not that I never eat fried foods or I never eat french fries, okay? I do eat fried food sometimes. Um, but I think it's also kinda like somebody was asking a little bit earlier. No, it's not what we do some of the time, it's what we do most of the time. So if you're eating pretty well, doing pretty well, and you still from time to time have a bag of hot Cheetos, like maybe it's fine. It doesn't affect you at all. And it's really not even that bad for you. Um, but it's difficult. It can be difficult to like see ourselves from that third perspective kind of perspective. That third person perspective, to kind of know like, okay, how are we doing most of the time? Like what is our overall um overall health, I don't know, I don't want to say score, like what is our health score, how healthy are we, but I think in a way like having some perspective on that is valuable, right? If you're um just constantly always eating fast food or eating takeout and eating fried things, then that's an example of like it's too often. But if you're only doing those things every once in a while, then, largely we're going based off of like, how do we feel? If we're feeling good, we have good energy, we don't really have any like major complaints going on, then it's probably fine, whatever you're doing. But those of us in a situation where we're struggling with a particular health issue or a particular type of pain, or people who are in that situation where they feel like they've been struggling to lose weight, which is unfortunately so common. That struggle that we feel, that struggle that we go through, um, we can start to kind of dissect that struggle and figure out what changes we can make and how we can start making those sustainable changes that are actually going to improve the situation. Because these little like moments of going on an extreme diet and moments of doing some kind of radical change is not as valuable as making a much smaller change that's over the long haul. All righty. see if I have missed anything here. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and kind of wrap up this chat so that I can take a minute to eat a little something before I come back on for our ASMR chat. It's so funny. I felt compelled that like I needed to be like ASMR. No, but I'm speaking normally in this video. But I appreciate all of you guys so much for popping in, and thank you so much for all of y'all's questions. Lots of little fun video ideas that came up in here today as well. And those of you who maybe are coming back and watching this video after the fact, feel free to leave your questions, comments, or any kind of video ideas or requests that you might have down in the comments below. Some good stuff to ponder. Well, hopefully, I've given you some good food for thought. That was bad. That was a bad joke. Anyway, I I hope that you have enjoyed it. I feel like there is just something, at least for me, feels valuable to me to like come on and talk about this stuff and hear what y'all are working on and hear y'all's questions. And so if it's any value to any of y'all, then that means everything to me. But I feel I get so much value by just like talking through this stuff with you guys. So I appreciate y'all being here with me. And if you like this Sunday time slot, let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Totally open with kind of playing with moving the date around, what day we want to do these chats. And then ultimately, I just need to like commit to one and then we'll like make it a thing. So if y'all like this Sundays at like 5 p.m. kind of time slot, I'm at least gonna plan to like, okay, we'll do this the next Sunday and kind of see, but I'm totally open to y'all's suggestions on what would work better for you, or if you just feel like there's a day that you're feeling most motivated. I was doing Wednesdays because of like the Wellness Wednesday hashtag, but I think that's kind of like, I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. Um, so by and large, I'm open to y'all suggestions. I appreciate y'all suggestions. I appreciate y'all being here. Michelle says Sunday is good. I feel like it's a good way to kind of like get in a good headspace for the week ahead. And kind of setting ourselves up for success, you could say. That's cheesy. That's moon cheesy. Moon cheesy. Oh my Gouda. I mean, did I buy it because I like Gouda cheese? Nah. Did I buy it because it has a funny joke on it? Yes. But they are very good. They're very good. All right, you guys, I love you. Thank you for joining me. I will see y'all next Sunday. So let's see. I can even look at a calendar. The 21st. So yes, I will see y'all back Sunday the 21st. I will see some of y'all here in about 30 minutes over on the ASMR channel. I appreciate y'all so much for being here with me. Thank you. Thank you. And I will talk to y'all very soon.